What's going on, everybody? Jackson here from Vendetta Sports Media, joined by our local Aussie friend and NBA expert, Jared. And today we are starting off our brand new series on YouTube, where instead of where we normally write about the upcoming NBA season in our team previews, we are doing a video series on all 30 teams in the NBA leading up to the start of the season. First off, Jared, how you doing today, my guy?
Today it's tonight over here.
Tonight,
it's,
right? Yeah.
10 past 11, as we mentioned before. I've got my cider in hand. I've got a day off tomorrow, so enjoying the evening. For those who are interested, Jackson did say it was probably a bit too early to drink where he is given it's 8 o'clock.
For some people, yes. Arkansas is a different breed when it comes to drinking, I feel like sometimes.
I say harden up, Jackson. Get some touch in you. But no, I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing really well.
All right, but we'll go ahead and we will get started here, kicking off the series with Jared's favorite team, his guys that he backs every single season, the Utah Jazz. So, Jared, why don't you go ahead and give us a brief overview of what happened last season with your Utah Jazz?
Yeah, I back him every season and I keep losing money. Last season, the Jazz quite famously first in the West. First time they've done that for, well, this century. 52-20, the equivalent of a 59-win season across a normal regular season. Third overall in offensive rating, fourth in defensive rating. Their net rating of plus 9.3 led the NBA by a freaking mile. It wasn't even close. Of course, everything flipped in the playoffs. Lost to the Clippers in the second round, a Kawhi-less Clippers. You could say it was a positive season overall. I mean, they made the second round of the playoffs, which is probably what they wanted to do. But given that the Jazz finished first in the league in net rating, first in the league in record, they would have hoped for a little bit more than that, particularly when Kawhi went down. I'm sure that at the start of the season, if you said to the Jazz, you're going to make the second round and lose to the Clips, they would have taken that. But the circumstances that surrounded it, I think the Jazz will be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think also the playoffs showed how important Donovan Mitchell was to the Utah Jazz and just how much of a cornerstone he is. Losing game one to the Memphis Grizzlies, my Memphis Grizzlies, actually. And if you would have told me that a rebuilding team would have made the 8th seed and then got into the playoffs through 2 play-in games and stole a game from the 1 seed, I'd take that every day. But probably, yeah, like you said, a little bit disappointing given the circumstances. But they're bringing back their core, right? What's happened for the team through the offseason and as we get closer here? Who have they brought in? Anybody, or is it relatively the same core group of people?
Yeah, it's essentially the core group, but Utah's made a key change in direction on the bench. Utah's bench over the last few years, the idea has been to replicate what the starting 5 do. But this side, Utah have decided to go a little bit different. They've lost George Niang to Philly, who low-key is a big loss. And they've lost one of my favourites, Derek Favors, to OKC. But what they've done to replace him is they've brought in a replica, a lower replica for mine, in Hassan Whiteside. But importantly, they've brought in Rudy Gay and Eric Pascal. So Rudy Gay in particular is an important pickup here. This is Utah's attempt at trying to get a small ball 5. They've also drafted Jared Butler, who, let's face it, if it wasn't for some quite concerning health issues, he was probably a mid to late lottery pick. So Utah has, at pick 40, managed to steal themselves on ability a top 10 draft pick. So if he can keep his health in check, then this is an absolute steal for the Jazz. If he doesn't, I shudder to think what could happen. We could, it could be as bad as like a Reggie Lewis situation for those old enough to remember. But on the surface, at number 40, this is a pick the Jazz had to make.
Who is going to be the Jazz's X factor? Who, if the Jazz are wanting to win a championship, who is the person that is most key into getting a championship?
I'm going to separate those two. So if we look at key player and X factor, we'll look at the key player first. It's got to be Mitchell. There were people last season, even halfway through last season, that were still doubting whether Donovan Mitchell was a genuine superstar in the league. And he absolutely is. And if last season didn't prove it, I can't help you. 26.5 points, a tick over 5 assists, 4.5 boards, almost 39% from three. He made about 3.5 threes a game. The postseason, yes, short sample size, 10 games, all of that, but it's against the best. 32.3 points. He hit 5 threes a game at 43.5%, despite nursing that ankle injury that you alluded to earlier, Jackson. And it's not just that he gets buckets. He has developed a knack for getting big buckets. He is a clutch basketballer now. So, I mean, if you're telling me someone who can average 30 plus points a game and get clutch buckets over 10 games in the playoff series, if that's not a superstar, then I don't know what is. The amazing thing is he's still only 25. We could legitimately be a year or two from Mitchell's peak. And I think part of reaching that peak could be his defense. He was touted as a defensive stopper when he came out of college. Now, obviously, his defense hasn't lived up to what it was supposed to be. You could attribute that to shouldering such a big offensive load, an unexpected offensive load. But if he can find just 5% more, 10% more on defense, that could be a key factor for the Jazz, who, as we saw with the Clippers, once they were able to draw Rudy Gobert out of the key, the Jazz had no perimeter defense, and it was just layup after layup for the Clips. So if he can find a little bit more on defense, that could make him, one of the most complete players in the league. The other side of your question, the X factor, it's got to be Gobert. So now Rudy Gobert, this might sound weird because Gobert is a star. The guy's a 3-time defensive player of the year. He'll be going for his 4th this year. He's only 29. If he gets his 4th, he ties the record. If he gets his 5th, he gets the most DPOYs ever. He's only 29. He could legitimately have the most defensive player of the years in history when it's all said and done. So how is a guy who is a star like this an X factor? It comes down to his offense. We all know he's an elite rim runner. Utah, probably the key part of Utah's offensive ecosystem is the gravity that Gobert has going to the rim, which opens up the shooters. Or alternatively, you have to stick with the shooters and Gobert gets an easy bucket. But I wonder whether he can get his offense a little bit more traditionally. Did you watch much of France in the Olympics, Jackson?
Not too much of France, no.
I saw quite a bit of them, and the thing that really took my eye, outside of Evan Fournier turning, I thought it was just Patty Mills who grew an extra leg in the Olympics, but Fournier was awesome. But every time teams switched onto Gobert, they made him go down into the low block, threw him the ball, and let him absolutely beast little blokes. Drop steps, baby hooks off both hands. It was glorious to see. He even stepped out and was hitting elbow jumpers. Now, this is stuff that Gobert does not do in the NBA. Whether he's not allowed to, I don't know. We're not on the inner sanctum of Quinn Snyder's team, but I would like to see, at least early in the season, I'd like to see Snyder just go to that a little more and see whether Gobert can do that against NBA level defenses. If he can do that, it opens up even more to Utah's already potent offense.
I love it. And I 100% agree with you with Donovan Mitchell. If people don't think that he's a superstar in this league, then what is their definition of a superstar? And Mitchell, to me, has always had, and it's kind of fitting too, because this ex-NBA player is now a partial owner of the Utah Jazz, but he's always given me that Dwayne Wade feel and style to his play. And I think that I think he can grow into a Dwayne Wade type player. He just, like you said, needs to develop his defense a little bit more. The offense is there. He's a better 3-point shooter than what Dwayne Wade was, which, of course, that's different eras coming into play there. But the fact that is in Donovan Mitchell's bag, and I saw the difference from game 1 of the first round 1 of the first playoff series through the rest of the games in the playoffs, how much the Jazz need him. They're a good basketball team without him. They are an amazing basketball team with him, and they all fit and mesh together, and Mitchell is the glue that holds it all together. And I thought that was the definition of what a superstar was, but I would love for other NBA fans to enlighten me on their more than likely wrong definition of what a superstar is.
If you say it's Julius Randle, you're wrong. Let's just put that out there. So I do want to cover off one more thing with the Jazz before we wrap it all up. I mentioned before Rudy Gay. Now, the Jazz are trying to, I suppose, modernise a little bit by having a small ball five in their arsenal. Now, Rudy Gay, he's 35, but he was very quietly really, really good for San Antonio last year. A tick over 11 points, about 5 boards, 1.5 steals and blocks, or a tick under 1.5 steals and blocks. Playing 21 minutes at age 35, hitting 38% of his threes, 4.5 attempts a game. So he can still shoot it. And he is 6'8" and 250 pounds. He is built like a freaking outhouse. So, yes, he's 35, but he's not somebody who is going to get bullied by most low post centers. You know, Embiid might do a job on him. Jokic might, but really there's not many centers who are going to take advantage of him down low. If he has anything left, he is 35 and San Antonio have let him go for a reason. But if he has anything left, he could be a really, really key piece for the Jazz in their ability to play small and to adapt to other teams. We saw what the Clippers did. They played Batum as a 5, Drew Gobert out of the key, and basically bet that the rest of Utah's perimeter defense couldn't stop anything. And they were proven right. This gives the Jazz a chance to do that to other teams.
Yeah, Gay, shout out to former Memphis legend Rudy Gay. It always
they're
seems
not putting any statues up outside of FedEx for Rudy.
No, they're not. He didn't. He was with the core four, but he wasn't a part of the core. He was part of. Ever since him, the Grizzlies have struggled to find their wing, and it's been rough. Let me tell you. But we'll go ahead and get into predictions. Jared, what do you see the prediction being for the Jazz record-wise? Where do they finish out West? And potentially, how far do you think they make it in the playoffs?
Well, health is a big thing for Utah. Conley, Ingles, Bogdanovich, Gay, none of them are young. Mitchell has shown, even though he's young, he has shown a bit of a proclivity for injuries. Now, Vegas has got Utah at 52 wins. I do think they go over it, but not by much. I've got them tabbed for 54 and finishing second in the West. It's tougher to predict playoffs, obviously, because you need to see matchups and where different teams land and who's still standing once they land there. But I think that the Jazz, after last season, they'll want to make the conference finals as a minimum. And honestly, I think they get there this season. I'm not convinced they go to the finals, but I think they'll make the conference finals.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the Jazz, Jared, before we wrap this up?
Don't put money on them. I keep doing that and I keep losing.
All right. Well,
gamble responsibly.
All right. Well, you heard it from the man himself. Again, thank you, Jared, for being here for this episode. Make sure to stay tuned and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see more of these videos, we will be hopefully having these previews coming out in rapid succession. I say hopefully because you never know what could happen, but hopefully these will all be out by the time the NBA season starts. Again, I'm Jackson Law. That's Jared. We're from Vendetta Sports Media, and we will see you guys next time.